Hey y'all, how you perking? I hope you perking good. So, highly requested video here. People have had a lot of questions about Trump recently. And specifically questions about him being on Epi's list. You know the list. And people asking questions like if he's gonna pass away soon, or like something bad happened to him, or like that he's, not going to finish his term as president, or things along those lines. There's just a lot of questions kind of hovering around the man here. So we're going to take a look into those today. I am a licensed mental health clinician as well as a spiritual intuitive, and in these videos, take a look at the tea with the tarot. Don't let that freak you out. Got a good track record here on the channel, actually including one of these questions that recently came to light. Back when we had first gotten the statement, there is no list for the epi person. People asked me to look into that. Like, is there really no list? And so we looked into that here publicly live on the channel, and it showed, yeah, there is a list. So that's not true. There is a list. And then people said, is Trump on that list? And so I looked into it, and sure enough, the cards showed, yes, Trump is on the list. And people asked me to look into kind of the details surrounding the nature of him being on the list, which I looked into. So those videos are here on the channel, and also on the channel membership, the Perk Squad. All of those things were recorded, and let's see, when did I upload those things? It's been weeks now, so maybe even longer than a month. The last live stream, well, I was going to look it up, but the internet won't load the page. So, interesting. I'm not allowed to find out the answers right now. Wonder what that's about. But yeah, it's been a couple of weeks, maybe even over a month since I've looked into all of those things, and all of that has already kind of come up and out and come to light exactly as we saw it here in the cards. So there's a recent example of having a pretty decent track record here, things coming true about these very types of questions that we're looking further into today. So let's dig a little bit deeper, shall we, and looking into these other things that I have written down from what y'all have asked. And before we jump into these questions that y'all have about Trump, another thing that y'all have asked is an update on my dog Scooter, who just had surgery at the time of filming this 2 days ago. So just in case this becomes pertinent for the reading at the time of filming this, it is Thursday, August 7th of 2025. 2 days ago, Scooter had his surgery. So just gonna insert a little bit here for you to get an update on Scooter and our journey a couple of days ago with his surgery, and then we will get back into the regularly scheduled programming here about Trump right after that. So, little update on Scooter for everybody curious. He needed 23 tooth extractions, which is basically the rest that he had left in his mouth after we've already removed the other 19 bit by bit over the years. Basically, the periodontal disease that we've been treating had gotten worse, and it ate away at his jawbones. And the disease also opened up oronasal fistulas that basically created pathways from his mouth to his sinuses. So all his bacteria infiltrated his nose, as well as wreaked havoc across his entire little snout. But fortunately, a team of specialists have fixed him up really well, and we're praying for a smooth recovery. So in this next picture here, gonna tell you a funny little story about when we picked him up. So basically, after about 4 hours, I finally got a call that his surgery was over. And I went in to pick him up. And when I walked up to the receptionist's desk and saying I was here to pick up Scooter, the receptionist laughed and pointed like back behind me over there. So I turned and I looked, and there I saw Scooter. He still had his catheters in. He was sitting on a very tiny couch in the lobby and basically just high as a fucking kite on all his meds. And he was forcing his vet tech to take him all around. So there's old Victor standing there with a leash and walking King Scoot wherever he wanted to explore. And it was funny because the surgeon said 99% of their patients sleep off the anesthesia. You know, you should be very lethargic and sleepy. But instead, Scooter wanted to pace around and explore, and he started controlling the hen house, and he went on patrol, and he was stargazing out the window, even if it was 1:30 p.m. and overcast daylight, and he didn't want to settle. So, that's Scooter. He's always been like that. Got to do things on his own terms, you know. Got to do it in my time, in my own way. And so they got a taste of that, how he is. He likes to have his autonomy and control. But of course, he crashed in the car on the way home. So here he is on his way home. Bless his little heart. You're okay. No, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Yeah, you're okay. No, 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 no. You're okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We're an okay boy. We're an okay boy. We're an okay boy. Yeah, we're an okay boy. No running. No, no. Just lay down. Lay down. There you go. There you go. It's okay. We're going home. We're gonna go home. Let's fall asleep, okay? Let's try to fall asleep, okay? Let's try to fall asleep. We can do it. We can do it. No, let's sit back down. Good boy. You're okay. He's falling asleep. Very slowly falling asleep. But wait, there's more. This is the undercarriage of my car. Yeah, so trying to drive home the 2 hour trip with Scooter from his surgery, it was monsooning outside, and I hit Lord knows what on the interstate. It's not like we could really see. And then there was a lot of rattling, so I was trying to drive very slowly and monitor if there was any kind of sensors going off, to try to inform me of what in the world happened, what was going wrong. Finally, the rain kind of died down enough for me to pull over and take a look, and this is what the underside of my car looked like. So, had to figure out a place to take my car to be looked at by a mechanic somewhere in that area that I'm not familiar with because it's far away from home. And when I pulled in, I'm so very glad the guy took pity on me because I pointed over into the passenger seat with Scooter seat belted in, a blep little boy, and I was like, so here you see me and Scooter sitting in the mechanic's lobby. He took pity on us and allowed Scooter to be inside in a blankie, sitting in the lobby, even if he's not a service animal or anything like that, and allowed us to be inside there while they figured out what was going on with my car and tried to do, some sort of a patch job where I could at least get home safely and, figure the rest out later. So it was a wild day, starting at 4 a.m. and not getting home until after 7 p.m. So very big day. Lots of stress, fatigue, expenses, but we both came out of it alive. So very grateful for that and thankful for the very nice mechanic's office. So whew, what a day, what a day. All right, so it's been a wild time here. I have been run down and tired, but the show goes on. Gotta be back at it here today. And so, again, we're looking into basically the future of Trump and the fate of Trump and some of these things around Trump. While y'all were looking at my scooter update video, I was over here trying to get the internet to work so that I could find out when it was that I have answered those questions publicly on the channel already that have already come true. And it was, the live stream was on July 11th. So that's where you can find the live stream where we initially looked up about whether or not there was actually a list, wink, wink, and then July 16th and 17th are the days that I have here for when I filmed and uploaded the rest of the questions that y'all had pertaining to Trump and the epi list and, whether or not he was on it and the extent to which he was on it. All of that is all that's in those two videos there. One of the videos says July 16th. One of them says the 17th. I don't know why. They were both filmed the same day. So, and uploaded the same day, but whatever. Those are there. So it's been about 3-4 weeks since all of that went down. It's come true. It's come to light. And here we are for the next iteration. So let's go ahead and bring up the cards over here and move this microphone right here. And as always, this is all alleged, just my interpretation. Okay, gotta say that for the YouTube overlords to be happy. All alleged, just my interpretation. I'm gonna get shuffled up here, and the first question that I have that pertains to those things that we just talked about is that there are people asking, is Trump gonna go down for being on the epi list? Like, is the House of Cards about to fall? Is he, gonna get exposed and called out and all that kind of stuff, held accountable, punished, whatever, any of those kinds of things? Is he going down for being on the list? So let's take a look into that, see what we can find out as the first question here in today's reading. So let's see. Right. Interesting first set here. So none of these cards are necessarily, this camera is all over the place. None of these cards are necessarily, from what I can see, showing the kind of energy of someone that's quote unquote going down. Like, I'm not seeing a Tower card fall. I'm not seeing, the Three of Swords going through the heart on the card. I'm not seeing, the Ten of Swords going through the back of the person on a card. There's various cards that I would look out for if I was going to get the sense that somebody's like going down, epically kind of thing. I'm not seeing that here. I'm not seeing kind of an epic going down. What I am seeing, though, is kind of a long, drawn out process. Like, literally all three of these on top here. You know, this is very long and drawn out, where it's like having to get our ducks in a row. We've got to get all the ducks in a row. We've got to get these things in place. And then we've got to get this evidence collected. And then we've got to get, you know, these things that are redacted to, you know, be able to be shown or whatever. And then we've got to get these things, you know, past some sort of, I don't know if there's like levels of what would you want to call it, like intel, or levels of what people are allowed to be kind of exposed to versus what's super confidential. Like it's just showing that there's a lot of these levels that have to be addressed, contended with, and kind of opened up for exposure and releases to happen. And so it looks like that's kind of multiple layers of things to have to dig through. And I will say, at least from what they're showing here, to have a reverse 10 of Wands, I don't think they're going to be able to get through all those layers. I think that there's going to be some layers that, as a part of exposure, people would have to get through something that is, for lack of a better way of putting it, impenetrable. It's either impenetrable because it is destroyed so nobody can find it or get to it, or it's impenetrable because it's like, well, if you release this about him, it's also going to release things about some people that we like and support, and we'll be going down with the Titanic with him, and we don't want that. So we're going to protect him because it also protects us. You know, there's various different impediments here to being able to get through all of those levels, all of those layers, all of those hoops and hurdles. So I see this as being kind of slow to grab all of these pinnacles that would be needed in a takedown like that. So I see a lot of attempts. I see a lot of flirting with that line of, you know, things coming out. And I even see, if we are talking about ducks in a row, I do see some things coming to light. But it's almost like breadcrumbs coming to light rather than the whole bread loaf. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily think, at least from what they're showing here, that the entire loaf will ever get presented, that we might only ever get, you know, crumbs here and crumbs there. So with the bottom row here, though, very interesting. Justice card upright, Page of Cups in reverse, King of Swords in reverse. This is kind of a loaded line here. With the Justice card upright, it does look like more justice will be done. So, meaning that there will be things that happen that, at least from the spirit guide's opinion, is considered just. So things that, you know, help to balance the scales a bit, things that need to come out and are able to a little bit, or things that need to happen perhaps karmically that are able to happen in a karmic way. Either way, there's a balancing of the scales. This could happen literally legally, but this could happen, like I said, karmically, where it's, you know, some form of justice starting to happen, just not necessarily in the conventional ways. That is very possible that we're going to be seeing those types of steps unfold. That could that could bring some wildness here. That might be something we take a look into with some of these other things, because when you look at it that way, if we're like, this opens up things beyond the conventional justice and balance and fairness methods and goes, you know, opens the door beyond that, honestly, the sky's the limit, especially if you're talking about karmic justice. The sky's the limit on what could that look like, what could that entail. So I am going to take a peek into that, because I'm that makes me a little bit like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? I'm like, nerves. Um, so we will get to that in just a second here. First, let me just poke my head in at the fact that we've got a Page of Cups in reverse, which is a, young people card, and also can be an emotional immaturity card. We've got the King of Swords in reverse, which is, cloudiness, obfuscation, confused energies, things like that. So when we're seeing this, it looks like there's going to be some confusion that comes about as this, I guess, path towards whatever justice looks like, whatever justice is, starts to play out. There's going to be a lot of confusion around that, and there's going to be a lot of strange emotions kind of running the ship a bit here. And by that, what I mean is, you know how sometimes you see things playing out and you're like, okay, this makes sense why this is playing out this way, because procedurally, this is the process, right? This is just how that's supposed to work. And then sometimes you see things playing out and you're like, that was an emotional decision there that was made. That what in policy backs up that decision? We're going to see more of that kind of thing where certain emotional decisions start to get made where you're like, I don't understand the policy or process that is behind that decision. Y'all are starting to act on things and do things, say things, take actions that seems like it's coming from some kind of an emotional place. What the hell's up with that? We're going to see a lot of that start to play out as well. So let's dig into this Justice card, though. Shuffle up once. Here. Trying to shuffle where y'all can see it, but okay. This Justice card. In terms of the fact that this could be legal, it could be karmic, it could be whatever kind of sense of, justice trying to restore itself or trying to be in some level of balance, what that looks like, what that could possibly entail, especially as it may affect Trump. Let's see. Okay. Sky's the limit on some of the things that could happen. All right. Interesting. Ooh, the World card upright, coming full circle, multiple communities involved, possibly multiple countries involved, providing whatever they know. So maybe one country says, well, here's what I have. And another place is like, well, here's what I have. And then, maybe some groups over here are like, well, these are the things that I've got. And so it's kind of like a collaborative effort of things coming forward, again, over time. Remember, this is more like getting breadcrumbs than getting an entire loaf, but scattered breadcrumbs from all over. I see at least one strong female figure having some sort of role in this in a very meaningful way showing up here. I do see some things not being able to come out, like literally the picture that they're giving me is like when during the Karen Reed case. Remember how there were a couple of the police officers that were supposed to turn in their phones, and like the day or two before they received this order that they have to give their phones, it's like, oh, both of our phones were just, happened to be destroyed or misplaced or lost or, something along those lines. And so, oh, conveniently, we just don't have that. That's what this card's giving. That's the energy this card's giving. So I would not be surprised if we conveniently lose access to some things that surely there used to be access to. If certain things are destroyed or never existed, wink, wink, things like that. Because there's an awful lot out there. So I guess for people who are wanting things to come out, and I imagine whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, if there's things that could come out, whether they're against him or anybody else, if there's things that could come out that helps bring justice to young people who were mistreated or criminally, had things happen to them or stuff like that. I think most people want that to be exposed, regardless of whose name it muddies while it gets exposed. They're like, there might be people being like, I really like Trump, but if he was involved in something, or if he knew of something and didn't act, then yeah, I do think that he should face the fire for that, because that's not okay. And there might be some people that are like, I hate the man, let him burn, whatever. So, but if nothing else, love him or hate him, and love other people, on the political stage or big figures, or hate them. I think most of us can agree, if there's stuff that could come out, whoever it ends up looking bad for, we kind of want that to come out, because that's just the truth of it, and that just needs to happen, and the chips need to fall where they fall. And the good news in that regard that I see here is, here's the amount of things that it's like, oh, whoops, lost that, or destroyed that, or don't know where it is, or it's gone, or whatever. That is a 2 of Pentacles card. The evidence and things that people have access to is a 10 of Pentacles card. So there's literally 5 times as much stuff as we still have access to as the things that we will no longer have access to. Still 5 times as much. That's a positive for a lot of people. Then like, okay, we'll bring it out then. Bring it out. So I don't see, for answering the question of, is Trump going to be going down for the epi list thing? I don't see him, quote unquote, going down for it. No. I do see breadcrumbs coming out. I don't see a whole loaf coming out. I do see things taking a long time to just dribble out little bit by little bit. I see some key players across the entire world coming forward with some help on this in a collaborative effort. One woman in particular really sticking out to me as being very helpful in this. Some stuff being destroyed, 5 times more of it not being destroyed and still accessible. And so I do imagine I see some things here that are probably not going to look very favorable on Trump. That being said, I'm not getting the worst of the worst cards here. Again, I'm not seeing the stuff of like, I am actively, R-wording young girls and stuff like that. I'm not getting those kinds of cards. So I can only say what I'm seeing, and I'm not seeing those here for Trump. But I'm seeing that there are things that could look really not good, and that enough could be problematic. Again, you don't necessarily have to be the one always perpetrating something for you to be in the wrong, so to speak. Merely knowing about things and not acting on that is also a pretty harmful thing as well. And there's a sense of that here. Especially, like I said, this doubling as a young people card, and it coming up in reverse is not the best sign. And certainly also seeing things like this obfuscation type of card and trying to destroy some stuff is not a good sign here too, because you'd think if Trump is truly perfectly innocent and there's nothing to hide, then you wouldn't want him to be, helping other people hide, or to, be a part of helping and engaging in destroying stuff, because that's hindering this kind of investigation. It's hindering the exposure. It's hindering the justice for people who've been affected. So again, if you're not the problem, are you still being a part of the problem because you're not being helpful? That's some stuff we're seeing here. So let me pull these up, reshuffle, because we've got more questions here about the future of Trump and the fate of Trump, basically. So, as I get shuffled here, there's a lot to talk about. The next question here is a big one. That's why I keep like breathing deeply, because people are really wondering like if he's gonna, pass away soon. Like I've heard a lot of people say it was gonna happen, in various months this year, and then it didn't happen in those various months this year. And so there's some people being like, well, it's still going to happen. It's just for some reason the timeline was off or something like that. And so there's people out there being like, okay, so is it that, yeah, it's going to happen and the timeline's just off? Or is it that everybody who predicted that, they're just wrong and they're just trying to save their own ass by saying, oh, it's going to happen later. I wasn't wrong. I just, the timeline just shifted to later. And they're just, trying to make themselves look better when the fact of the matter is they were wrong. I don't know why people are asking me to settle that score, because I know I've got a decent track record here. That's true. However, nobody's 100% right 100% of the time. We are human. We are fallible. We can misinterpret something. It happens. It happens. So I don't necessarily know that I would be more right than other people. I don't know. I don't watch other people, but I'll look into the question anyway and give you my 2 cents on it. And you can compare it to other people if you want, and that'll be that. But as I'm shuffling up here, if you would like more videos like these, like I said, there's one of these videos that I had to put on the Perk Squad back in the middle of July. And so if you want to be a member of the Perk Squad to be able to see that video or others that are similarly too controversial to post over here, then all of that there on the Perk Squad, you can click the join button below or the link in the description box. It will take you there. There's plenty of perks to the Perk Squad in addition to those things. One of them being video shout outs. So shout out to you, Bella, and thank you for being a member of the Perk Squad. Happy to have you here. So shout out to you, Bella, and thank you for being a member. Alright, y'all. I think I'm sufficiently shuffled. So let's see what we are allowed to know, only what we are allowed to know about the potential for Trump passing away soon. What we're allowed to know. We were apparently allowed to know like a year and a half in advance about him getting shot through the ear. That's here on my channel where I had predicted that, and my ear was even burning, and I mentioned that. That's in a proof video if you want to look at the proof playlist. But so they did tell me that in advance, so I don't know. We'll look here and see if we can get anything on this in advance, but I'm only going to look for whatever we're allowed to know that's of the highest good of all. So, in terms of that question, for the highest good of all, what do we see, spirit guides, here? Okay. So, what I will say, first things first, I'm sure y'all are noticing that the tarot does have a death card, and that card, it is not present right here. In fact, we do get the Sun card upright, which is arguably the most positive card in the entire deck. So that's not to say that he won't pass away soon. I'm just not necessarily seeing the same kinds of things that other readers are seeing relative to that question, for whatever the reason may be. I guess I'm just seeing conflicting information compared to what they're seeing. So what I am seeing here, 7 of Pentacles upright, Strength card in reverse, Knight of Swords upright. With the Strength card in reverse, this is a weakened state. So I do see something weakening him. That can mean weakening him in a physical sense, like, an illness or a physical setback. It could also be a weakening in a, mental sense, such as like when we see the cognitive decline in former President Joe Biden and things like that. It could be something along those lines. It could also be a weakening in a political sense, meaning, some sort of a mutiny type of situation, or people turning on him and him, falling out of favor amongst his own colleagues or something like that, that weakens him. So I do see him becoming weakened over time. This is kind of over time. I'm seeing him becoming weakened. And it could be one of those types of things, or it could be in all of those categories. It literally doesn't have to be just one. It could be weakened in across multiple categories. So I do see him being weakened, and that might be where other people are seeing his demise in a permanent way. That might be where it's coming from, is that they're seeing that. I interpret it as something coming up that is greatly weakening his positioning. I do see, though, with that Knight of Swords upright, him really still trying to push through and all that anyway. Like, I'm just really gonna keep gunning for it and going. I'm just gonna, like, what this gives is, I'm not a mom of a human baby, but for all of you who are or are familiar with kids, you know how toddlers like get a real second wind before they're supposed to go to sleep, and you're like, all right, it's time to go to sleep, and they're like, no, I'm not sleepy, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I want you to read a story, or remember that time that this thing happened, or I really want to talk to you about this or that, or that. Like young kids start like having things happen right before bed conveniently, and you're like, you're not hungry, you're tired, you don't want to tell a story, you're sleepy, no, all of this is just resisting going to sleep. Quit resisting. You're just doing your last minute flailing, but it's all resisting. That's what this card is giving, like that in this weakened state, Trump resisting and showing all of those kinds of signs. All of this, I'm gonna, do things harder or faster or, bigger or in more extreme ways or, whatever. You're gonna see this excess that's happening as the weakening is happening. And it gives off that flavor of young child right before bed. So that is a little puzzling and concerning. One, it's concerning as in, the fact that I care about people and humanity and the collective as a whole, which means that even if, like I said, I voted independent, which means I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Kamala either, but I didn't vote for Trump. It doesn't mean I still feel concerned. Like, if this happens, I feel concerned for him. Like, I don't want him to struggle and suffer in a personal way, but I also feel concerned for all of us, that as he acts like the toddler that doesn't want to go to bed, what does that mean he's going to do that we're going to be involved in? So those are things that do kind of raise my little alarm bells a little bit there, because that could be a lot of different stuff. Oh God. Okay, before I get lost in thought about that, let's just keep on trekking through. Oh man. So down here, Nine of Pentacles in reverse, Sun card upright, like I said, Queen of Pentacles in reverse. We're seeing both of these kind of feminine facing cards in a reverse position, but surrounded by the Sun card upright. So it really seems here like in some kind of a way, he is charmed. You can think of that as he's being protected, he's blessed. You can interpret that in any kind of way. You can be like, he's blessed because he is, of God's work and God wanted him to be president. Or you could say he's being sheltered because he's the president of the United States, which is arguably one of the most powerful positions in the entire world. So that's why he's being protected. Or you can say, okay, well, he's being blessed because even if he is, I've heard this take, and, I think it's fair to say it among the others, that he's been blessed because even if he's a, villain figure, he's got to be around to do the certain things he's got to do to set off the chain of events that need to happen for, destiny to play out the way it's supposed to be. So he's just a tool in the cog, but he has to be protected until he does the thing that the tool is supposed to do. Like, there's so many different theories about why this might be, but I just see that, yeah, he is in some kind of a way charmed a little bit, at least for a time, at least for a period of time, but apparently not charmed enough to avoid being weakened, because that came up first. So let's see, what can we know about these ideas that are coming up and presenting themselves here? What can we know about these? Okay, heartbreak card, but it's in the reverse position. In the reverse position. Victim card, but it's in the reverse position. Okay, so both of these cards, if we were expecting them to be very, very bad for Trump, we would see them like this, but we're not. We're seeing them in the reverse position here. So in some sort of a way, it's like it's like he's a cat with 9 lives, or he's like, how people, I don't know if it's true or not, but I used to hear people joking about cockroaches, saying like they'd be the only things that would still be alive, if nukes were to happen or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but pretending that it is for the sake of what's coming up in my head for this is like, yeah, all these things can happen. How does he keep staying afloat during it? Impeachments happen, he stays afloat. Scandals happen, he stays afloat. Epi's List happens, he stays afloat. Shot through the ear, he stays afloat. All this stuff that keeps coming up and out about him, either happening to him or things that he does and says that earns things happening to him. Regardless, it seems like he just keeps coming back up like a whack-a-mole game. It keeps popping back up. And so that's what this is showing too. That there is the sense of there will be further hits, but he will continue to pop back up. The Two of Pentacles, though, does see a shift and a change. So I am curious to look into the shift in this change. Some kind of action being taken that, again, is possibly emotional for him, but not coming from a fully emotional place for other people. So probably has some, bite to it. Has some bite to it. Got some pentacles here. Again, that slow and steady breadcrumbing, getting the ducks in a row for things to come out. So it looks like the people who are realizing, okay, we can't do a hard and fast take him out, but let's do a slow, over time, whatever we can, and start to tease things apart. And, over time, these things will start to add up, and cumulatively, it will become a problem for Trump, and that could be a sort of takedown sort of thing, if you will. Still, doesn't look like in the way that other people are thinking, and especially it doesn't look like in the way that people who hate Trump are wanting. I don't see their hopes and dreams coming true in that regard. But let's explore it for just a little bit. Oop, 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 oop. We got both of these coming out. Yeah. So, staying up on my high horse, having all this power. So I do see a shift of sorts. And the shift could mean people that were on the fence about Trump, that were like, I don't really like him or hate him, starting to change their opinion and going more into the, okay, that's it. Yeah, I'm not a fan, camp. And it could mean some people that used to endorse him, maybe even voted for him, being like, you know what? Yeah, not feeling it anymore. not in his corner anymore. So I do see this kind of sense of stuff changing over and the tides changing, and that is also a part of this weakening. But in terms of, is that enough to take him out, or is that necessarily seeing him pass away or something? I'm not necessarily getting that here. I just see definitely a weakening, definitely a changing tides, and you know, this isn't a positive direction for him. This isn't a growth and a positive thing. This is a decline. So I do see that. I do see that. Anything else we need to know on that? Just real quick. Again, we've got that Queen of Wands card. So now they're starting to repeat themselves with what they were having a while ago, especially as it relates to this kind of ducks in a row card and her. They're coming up again. So we're starting to go right back around to where we were. So it doesn't look like they're wanting to give us any new information about that. They're just kind of repeating what they've already told us at this point. So that's my cue to not dig into this piece any further. I'm going to respect the boundary lines where Spirit draws them. That's why I'm able to be a messenger in any capacity, because I respect the boundaries here. So I'm going to pull these up, reshuffle, and we will pull one more quick little thing to just see what else, if anything, can we know about the future of Trump, the fate of Trump, before we close here. So as I get shuffled up here and we're about to pull that last little bit, if you are interested in a private reading, you can book a private reading at BeasTalksAndTarot.com. We've got all different kinds of little private readings, different lengths of time, different price ranges and things like that there. We've also got Reiki Energy healing for anybody that wants a cleansing, clearing tune-up from a distance. Also got intuitive healing sessions for anybody that feels stuck, wants help moving forward, wants to release some old baggage, things like that. And then also I have tarot tutoring for anybody who would like to learn how to read the cards the way I read the cards. So all of those things there, BeasTalksAndTarot.com, and yeah, check it out. Woo, we got a flyer. So we're going to go ahead and take this. Now we get the death card after we asked all that stuff, and it's in reverse, by the way. I know you'll see it better whenever I pull more cards down, but I think they were very deliberate to not give us that card a while ago. They didn't want to go there with that. So I was like, okay, we're not going to go there with that. But in terms of what else we can know about his future, about his fate. Okay. So what we can know here, again, finally this card comes up, but it comes up in the reverse position. So again, I see him really trying to dig his heels in and kick it for as long as he possibly can. And I also see a reversed Five of Pentacles and a reversed Five of Swords. Fives are change energy. Both of these being fives, these things being in reverse, are also a resistance of change energy. So resisting a literal change over card, and then two fives. This is literally triple five, triple resisting change kind of energy coming up here. So that is kind of an intense thing to come up if we're thinking about his future, his fate, what's coming for him. And we're seeing all of this, like there's a lot of change brewing and we're really digging in our heels and resisting this change. That could happen a lot of different ways. That could look a lot of different ways here. It's possible that could look like not sticking to proper boundaries. So let's say there's certain things that he's not supposed to do within his power and he really tries to push that, or there's certain things that most people are trying to change and he resists that. Or it could even be referring to how, there are some rumors about, will he, resist being out of office or something. There's just, this could stand for a variety of different things, but there is a lot of bubbling up change and a lot of resisting that in his future that could play out in quite a few different types of scenarios, and probably will. I don't think this is just one thing they're bringing up. I think this is like a theme, a pattern that we're going to be seeing playing out. So, also what we're seeing, Two of Cups in reverse, again with this Page of Cups, and again it's in reverse, and again it's here in the middle, so that's interesting. Just, all the little synchronicities that they're weaving around in here. Two of Wands in reverse. So this does feel like a falling out with relationships, and certain relationships being shallow. And I don't necessarily mean shallow as in like, oh, this guy is so shallow, or this girl is so shallow, they're so vain or whatever. I mean shallow as in not a very deep relationship, just a surface level for this reason only kind of relationship. And I'm seeing those types of relationships where it's like, if he wasn't who he was, there'd be no relationship at all kind of thing. That it's literally very situational, shallow because of the role type of thing. And so I'm seeing some strained relationships here, maybe some falling outs, and losing favor or losing allies or things like that. And the Two of Wands in reverse is like starting to kind of lose grip on a lot of things, lose control on a lot of things. So it does look like, again, going into that weakening we saw, it does look like him getting in a weakened state and starting to lose control, lose relationships, lose some power in a sense, and some tides shifting in those kinds of ways. So that doesn't look so great for him. And yeah, I'm like, that doesn't look so great for him. And I was like, ugh, making faces, and here we go. Yep, Ten of Swords, stabbed in the back, so I see people turning on him. I see people, turning on him can be a lot of things. It can be, supporters turning on him, colleagues turning on him. It can be other leaders from other countries turning on him. It can be a lot of different things. With this being a betrayal card, there's a sense of, I feel betrayed by these people turning on me. So I see that as becoming a big issue in that way, but it does mean that he starts losing grip and again, losing power, losing stuff. So there is a sense of his control waning. And with the Queen of Pentacles also in reverse, here's two reversed pentacles, two dropped balls. So these could show up like if people were to try to impeach again, and that this time they were successful in getting him out of office or something like that. Those kinds of things could happen under here. It is possible with a card like this that at some point there could be, another potential attempt on his life that could be effective. It's possible when seeing this card, but again, we didn't get the Death card earlier and it came up reversed now, so I don't necessarily know that that's as high of a likelihood, but I do see some kind of things rolling down the line in the future where here he thinks he's getting more and more powerful, more and more famous, more and more like, once I'm out of here, people will still think of me as the leader, or, kind of think of me as the one in charge. But I don't necessarily see that to be true. I do see tides changing and stuff shifting. And it's possible that that could coincide with like the midterm elections that are going to be happening next year in 2026. There's a possibility that, you know, maybe more Democrats get in, and so things start to shift in power dynamics, and that, you know, he ends up having more people kind of able to butt against him and his plans in that way. Honestly, I think it can come in a lot of different forms. I think it's going to come in more than one form. So, whereas I don't outright see him passing away like other readers have seen, and, you know, he could. There's a card like this insinuates that it's possible, and the weakening, you know, if it's a health issue or something, it could be possible. Whereas I don't necessarily see that as the forefront. I do see a weakening, and I do see it happening across many different domains for him, you know, slowly over time, and I do see that affecting his level of power, and potentially his ability to maintain the office and, you know, continue the full term. There is a question mark about that, based on this. I guess it depends on how far he weakens before his term is up. So to be continued, I guess. To be continued. Wow. This is a lot. This is a lot. So anywho, this is a long ass video. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these up. This has been a long one today. So I'm gonna put this one on up. Hopefully YouTube will get it up there fast. And we'll put a B-roll here at the end so that we have something that's light and lifted for y'all to watch, some puppy shenanigans or something like that, so that you can kind of smile or have a laugh before the video is over. So take a look at the B-roll, get your head in a good space, a little bit of a lighter space than all of this, and all right, y'all, don't be a stranger. Come back and see me, and I will talk at you later. But let me mean it. But let me mean it. Bye, y'all. You got it figured out now, bud? You good? No? Okay.